Paul is dead is an urban legend and conspiracy theories suggesting that Paul McCartney of the English rock band The Beatles died in 1966 and was secretly replaced by a look-alike. In September 1969, American college students published articles claiming that clues to McCartney's supposed death could be found among the lyrics and artwork of the Beatles recordings. Clue hunting proved infectious and within a few weeks had become an international phenomenon. Rumours declined after a contemporary interview with McCartney was published in Life magazine in November 1969. Popular culture continues to make occasional reference to the legend, and McCartney poked fun at it with a 1993 live album titled Paul is Live, whose cover parodied clues allegedly on the cover of the Beatles' Abbey Road album. Beginnings. A rumour that Paul McCartney had been killed in a car crash circulated in London after a January 1967 traffic accident involving his car. The rumour was acknowledged and rebutted in the February issue of the Beatles book fanzine, but it is not known whether the rumour of 1969 is related to it. In the autumn of 1969, the Beatles, having just released their Abbey Road album, were in the process of disbanding. McCartney's public engagements were few and he was spending time at his Scottish retreat with his new wife Linda to contemplate his forthcoming solo career. On September 17, 1969, the student newspaper of Drake University in Iowa published an article titled, "Is Beatle Paul McCartney Dead?" The article described a rumor that had been circulating on campus that Paul was dead. At that point the rumor included numerous clues from recent Beatles albums, including the Turn Me On, Dead Man message heard when Revolution 9 from the White Album is played backwards. In Wire reports published as early as October 11, Beatles press officer Derek Taylor responded to the rumor saying, "Recently we've been getting a flood of inquiries asking about reports that Paul is dead. We've been getting questions like that for years, of course, but in the past few weeks we've been getting them at the office and home night and day. I'm even getting telephone calls from disc jockeys and others in the United States." Growth. On October 12, 1969, a caller to Detroit radio station WKNR-FM told disc jockey Russ Gibb about the rumor and its clues. Gibb and other callers then discussed the rumor on the air for the next hour. 2 days after the WKNR broadcast, the Michigan Daily published a satirical review of Abbey Road by University of Michigan student Fred Leiber under the headline "McCartney Dead." New evidence brought to light. It identified various clues to McCartney's death on Beatles album covers, including new clues from the just-released Abbey Road LP. As Leiber had invented many of the clues, he was astonished when the story was picked up by newspapers across the United States. WKNR-FM further fueled the rumor with a special 2-hour program on the subject, The Beatle Plot, which aired October 19, 1969. In the early morning hours of October 21, 1969, Robbie Yonge, a disc jockey at New York radio station WABC, discussed the rumor on the air for over an hour before being pulled off the air for breaking format. At that time of night, WABC's signal covered a wide listening area and could be heard in 38 states and at times, other countries. Later that day, the Beatles press office issued statements denying the rumor, which were widely reported by national and international media. Various clues were used to suggest the following story. 3 years previously, McCartney, after an argument during a Beatles recording session, had angrily driven off in his car. He had crashed it and died as a result. To spare the public from grief, the Beatles replaced him with William Campbell, the winner of a McCartney look-alike contest. The clues. Hundreds of supposed clues to McCartney's death have been reported by fans and followers of the legend. These include messages perceived when listening to a song being played backwards, and symbolic interpretations of both lyrics and album cover imagery. One oft-cited example is the suggestion that the words spoken by McCartney's bandmate John Lennon in the final section of the song "Strawberry Fields Forever Are I Buried Paul." McCartney later revealed the words were actually cranberry sauce. Another is the interpretation of the Abbey Road album cover as symbolizing a funeral procession, where Lennon, dressed in white, symbolizes the clergyman or heavenly figure. Ringo Starr, dressed in black, symbolizes the undertaker or mourner. George Harrison, in denim jeans and shirt, symbolizes the gravedigger, and McCartney, barefoot and out of step with other members of the band, symbolizes the corpse. Rebuttal. On October 21, 1969, the Beatles' press office issued statements denying the rumor, deeming it a load of old rubbish, and saying that the story has been circulating for about 2 years. We get letters from all sorts of nuts, but Paul is still very much with us. Rumours started to decline when, on November 7, 1969, Life magazine published a contemporary interview with McCartney in which he said, "Perhaps the rumor started because I haven't been much in the press lately. I have done enough press for a lifetime, and I don't have anything to say these days. I am happy to be with my family and I will work when I work. I was switched on for 10 years and I never switched off. Now I am switching off whenever I can. I would rather be a little less famous these days." Aftermath. Before the end of October 1969, several records were released on the subject, including The Ballad of Paul by the Mystery Tour, Brother Paul by Billy Shears and the All-Americans, and So Long Paul by Werbley Finster, a pseudonym for Joe's copyright Feliciano. Terry Knight, a singer on Capitol Records, had witnessed the Beatles' White Album session during which drummer Ringo Starr had walked out and, in May 1969, released a song called St. Paul about the impending breakup of the Beatles. The tune nosed on to the bubbling under Hot 100 chart at number 114 in late June that year and was quickly forgotten until a few months later, when it was picked up by radio stations as a tribute to the late Paul McCartney. A television program hosted by celebrity lawyer F. Lee Bailey was broadcast on WOR in New York on November 30, 1969, in which Bailey cross-examined Leiber and other witnesses about the rumor, but he left it to the viewer to determine conclusions. When, before the recording, Leiber told Bailey that his article had been intended as a joke, Bailey sighed and replied, "Well, we have an hour of television to do. You're going to have to go along with this." Both Lennon and McCartney subsequently referred to the legend in their music, Lennon in his 1971 song, How Do You Sleep? And McCartney with his 1993 Live album titled Paul is Live. In popular culture, as well as being the subject of several books, films, and analyses, there have been many references to the legend in popular culture. Examples include, a parody published in a 1970 Batman comic book. Humorous references have been made in television programs such as The Simpsons. The story was discussed in a 2006 episode of the Catalan soap opera El Corner de la Ciutat, and a 2009 Wired Italia magazine article which compared selected photographs of McCartney, taken before and after his alleged demise. In 2010, a mockumentary entitled Paul McCartney Really Is Dead, The Last Testament of George Harrison, featuring fabricated found footage audio tapes of a voice claiming to be Harrison explaining that the rumor was true, was released on video. References